Good afternoon and welcome to the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor. Committee Secretary, will you please take roll?
Assembly members Anderson, Carter,
Present.
Cole, Hardy, Howdigi, Kasama, Miller, Monroe Moreno, O'Neill, Roth, Torres Fawcett, Yeager, Urick, and Chair Marzola.
I am here. Please mark members present as they arrive. Welcome everyone here in Carson City, anyone joining us by teleconference in Las Vegas, and anyone tuning over the internet. Today we are going to hear three bills: Assembly Bill 177, Assembly Bill 231, and Assembly Bill 258. I will not be taking those in order. Before we start, I would like to make a few housekeeping announcements. Members of the public may provide testimony in various ways, all of which are listed in our agenda. When testifying, please remember to turn the microphone on to speak and off to listen. If you have handouts for the committee, please provide 20 copies to the committee secretary prior to your testimony. In addition, exhibits and amendments must be submitted electronically as a PDF file to our committee manager no later than noon on the business day before our meeting. Committee information is available on the legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through the legislature's YouTube channel. We ask that public comment be kept to 2 minutes so that everyone interested in speaking can be accommodated. Public comment may be submitted in writing, either in addition to or in lieu of. Written public comment may be submitted before, during, or up to 24 hours after our meeting has adjourned. I expect courtesy and respect in all our interactions, even if we may not agree. Finally, please put all of your electronic devices, especially your cell phones, on silent mode. And with that, we will begin our first agenda item. Our first bill is Assembly Bill 258. This measure revises provisions relating to brokerage agreements. Assemblymember Moore, you may begin when you're ready. Please make sure to present all your presenters, and also remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Thank you. Chair Marzola and members of the committee, I am Assemblymember Cynthia Moore, CINTHIAMOORE. I'm here to present AB 258. I'm bringing AB 258 forward to make sure Nevada is following the National Association of Realtors Settlement Agreement, which stemmed from a lawsuit regarding brokerage agreements. As you may know, the lawsuit emerged out of the need to address longstanding concerns over certain brokerage practices that were affecting transparency, pricing, and competition in the marketplace. By aligning Nevada's laws with the settlement agreement, we are not only protecting our consumers, but also enhancing the integrity of our real estate market here in Nevada. This legislation will help create a more equitable and transparent framework for all parties involved in real estate transactions, ensuring that our state meets national standards and remains a leader in protecting the rights and interests of Nevadans. With me today, I have Brandon Roberts, the Nevada Realtors President, Jenny Reese with Corral, Nevada, and Melissa Zaragoza-Stratton. Chair, if you don't mind, I would like to turn it over to Brandon Roberts to provide additional testimony on this bill. Thank you.
You may begin when you're ready. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Brandon Roberts, BRANDONROBERTS. And I serve as the president of the Nevada Realtors, and I have over 28 years experience in real estate, including more than 22 years as a broker. I would like to express my appreciation to Assemblymember Moore for introducing AB 258. As you may be aware, the National Associations of Realtors settled a lawsuit last year that involved brokerage agreements and commissions. One recommendation that came out of the resolution is that all brokerage agreements be in writing before performing any service, including showing homes. This agreement must clearly outline the services to be provided and the associated costs. Nevada Realtors fully supports this change because we believe it benefits consumers by ensuring they are properly represented. A written agreement provides transparency, helps buyers and sellers understand the role of their broker, the scope of the services being provided, and the associated costs. This added clarity enhances consumer protection and trust in the real estate transaction. Currently, Nevada law allows brokerage agreements to be either oral or written. Section 2 of AB 258 eliminates the option for oral agreements, ensuring that all brokerage agreements must be in writing. This subsequent sections of the bill make necessary adjustments to align existing statutes, removing references to written agreements, since all brokerage agreements will now be required to be written. For example, Section 4 of the bill relates to exclusive brokerage agreements, which previously had to be in writing with the bill. Both exclusive and non-exclusive brokerage agreements will be in writing. It is important to note that the settlement agreement of the class action lawsuit covers realtors, while this proposed amendment would apply to all real estate licensees under Chapter 645, offering additional consumer protection. Additionally, the bill applies only to residential brokerage agreements. Commercial agreements are specifically covered under another statute within Chapter 645 that are not amended by AB 258. All commercial brokerage agreements are already required to be in writing under current law. I appreciate your time and consideration of AB 258, and I urge you to support this important measure to strengthen consumer protection in Nevada's real estate industry. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is that the end of the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Committee members, are there any questions? Assemblymember Kasama?
Thank you, Chair. Super simple. I'm a co-sponsor on the bill too, and even before, I just wanted to add that even before the national settlement, that just having clarity in the contracts, because sometimes there was ambiguity where something was oral and partly written, and so even before that, it's just important, as we know in our society, having everything clearly in writing this is just a great cleanup and clarity. So thank you all for this.
Committee members, any additional questions or comments? I don't see any. Anytime there's a bill that gives more clarity and consumer protection, I'm all for it. Thank you. We will now hear testimony in support to Assembly Bill 258. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see any. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? No one's walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 258, please press *9 to join the queue. Chair, no callers are choosing to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 258. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 258, please press *9 now to join the queue. Chair, we do not have any callers choosing to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. We'll move to testimony in neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in the neutral position to Assembly Bill 258? I don't see any. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Oh, thought she was walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 258, please press *9 to join the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers choosing to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. Assemblymember, would you like to give any closing remarks? Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 258. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 231. This measure requires a service contract to impose certain duties on the provider of the service contract. Assemblymember Hunt, welcome to Commerce and Labor. I'm very excited that this is your first bill and it's in my committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair Mazzola, and members of the members of the committee. I am Assembly Member Linda Hunt, that's Linda-Hunt, representing Assembly District 17 in North Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm here to present Assembly Bill 231, which requires a home warranty service contract to specify certain duties of the service contract provider. With me today is Jonathan Norman, Esquire, and Taylor Ottman, Esquire. She's in Vegas, members of the Nevada Coalition of Legal Services Providers. I also would like to thank Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick. She has been very concerned about the issue and helpful in giving me the input on this legislation. Finally, before we get started, NRS 690C.260 is broader than home warranties. This bill that I'm bringing forth is only meant to address home warranty service contracts, and I am open to language that makes that clear. Now, I would like to give you all background information about Assembly Bill 231. Okay, when big things in your home break, like a heater or air conditioner system, they can cost lots of money to fix. Some people buy home warranties or service contracts to help cover these costs. There are different types and options depending on the company and the amount you pay, but these contracts typically provide protection for repairs, maintenance, or replacements due to defects in materials, workmanship, or normal wear and tear. They last for a set amount of time and can cost extra money. In 2022, the Division of Insurance and Department of Business and Industry reported that 243 registered providers sold roughly 8.5 million service contracts for 8 general categories of contract types, including appliances, auto, consumer goods, electronics, furniture, and home. Okay, in conversation with my constituents, I have heard recurring concerns about service contracts, particularly about home warranty companies that are not timely in fixing the problems. They may take a long time to send out a technician to repair a covered issue, such as a malfunctioning air conditioner unit during periods of extreme heat. As we know, in Las Vegas, during the summers, temperatures frequently reach 110 to 115 degrees. In fact, the record high in Las Vegas last summer was 117 degrees. Despite these extreme conditions, home warranty companies often fail to respond efficiently, leaving residents without a functional air conditioner for extended periods of time. Many seniors and families in situations have turned to news outlets to bring attention to their case in hopes of expediting services. The solution proposed in Assembly Bill 231 is to hold home warranty companies and their primary contractors accountable for the service a person has paid for. This includes 1, mandating timely responses and repairs within the allowed time outlined in the bill. 2, requiring main contractors to fulfill their obligations directly or ensure that subcontractors meet the same standards. 3, implementing penalties for contractors and home warranty companies that fail to meet these timelines. And 4, establishing clear communication protocol between contractors, home warranty companies, and consumers to avoid unnecessary delays. So right now, what I would like to do, I would like to play a short video for you guys.
Plan your family fun in the ultimate playground at visitcalifornia.com.
All summer long, Fox 5 has been hearing from you about problems with your AC and how you've waited for repairs, especially through your home warranty. A family reached out to us. They say they've had a broken AC since June 5th. We reached out to their home warranty, but we also reached out to the Nevada Division of Insurance for guidance. If you're having home warranty headaches, how can filing a complaint with the state help? Fox 5 is getting answers.
I'm getting your dad out of here right away. It stays at 99 all the time.
For weeks, it was not safe for Victor and Maria Portillo and pregnant daughter Jacqueline to be inside for too long. Victor is 86 years old and has stage 4 cancer. Their daughter is 8.5 months pregnant. Since June 5th, the family has had a broken AC. June 6th, the contractor did come out, but for weeks they waited for parts and repairs through their home warranty, and they had been staying at a hotel.
I needed a new condenser and evaporator coil, which I have to pay out of pocket $2,100. And then they stated they wouldn't deliver until July 22nd. He's passed out at least 5 times. It's very difficult. With one sick person, I have the other one ready to deliver.
On the 18th, Fox 5 reached out to the home warranty company. The company says a part was back ordered. By the 20th, a repair crew finally came, but the AC has had problems every day since.
A home warranty company has an obligation to react within a certain time frame, especially in a period of emergency, which is now when temperatures are 105 or greater. We review all complaints to make sure that the consumer's rights are not being mistreated.
Commissioner Scott Kipper of the Nevada Department of Insurance explains, if you are dealing with delays from your home warranty, you can file a complaint for state officials to investigate. The DOI allows companies to operate in the state and make sure they're following the terms of your contract. Once you've filed a complaint, state officials will review it. They may ask your home insurance for answers and results.
They have 3 days to notify the consumer. They have 3 days in which to reach out to a contractor to initiate the work. They're also required to notify the Division of Insurance of those actions.
So how do you file a complaint? We have the link how on this story on our website. As for the Portillo family, a repair crew had to come back Sunday. They added Freon. The AC worked fine for a day. Now the Portillo's house can't get below around 80 degrees. We will bring you updates once their AC is completely fixed.
Thank you. So now, do I have to say?
Is someone going to go through the bill in its entirety?
I have to address Chair Marzola and committee. I would like to now turn it over to Taylor Altman, Esquire, to go over the bill and the recommended conceptual amendments.
Great, thank you. Ma'am, you can begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Marzola and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Taylor Altman, Tayloraltman. I'm a staff attorney in the Consumer Rights Project at Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada. Thank you for the opportunity to present here today on AB 231 regarding the duties of home warranty service contract providers. Madam Chair, may I now present a walkthrough of the bill incorporating the conceptual friendly amendment uploaded to Nellis?
Please.
Thank you. For enhanced consumer protection, especially for low-income and underserved Nevadans, the proposed changes to NRS 690C.260 seek to clarify both the notice requirements and the home warranty service provider's duties. The proposed changes also make the provider's failure to comply with the requirements of Section 1G a deceptive trade practice under NRS Chapter 598, which is actionable as consumer fraud under NRS 41.600. I will now walk through the bill with the conceptual amendment, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Section 1, subsection 1G sets out the duties of a provider of a home warranty service contract. Subsection G1 requires the repairs covered under the service contract to be made within 14 business days after the provider receives notice from the contract holder. The conceptual amendment demonstrates how notice can be accomplished, including in writing and by telephone. Subsection G2 adds duties of the home warranty provider with regard to air conditioners. The original text of the bill provided for 5 business days to repair a broken air conditioner after receiving notice, while the conceptual amendment reduces that time period to 3 calendar days. The conceptual amendment also clarifies the manner in which the holder can provide notice of defective goods to the home warranty provider. Additionally, this section requires the home warranty provider to provide sleeping accommodations at a hotel at no cost to the holder if the repair isn't made within the 3 calendar days. Hotel accommodations must be provided until the air conditioner is restored to working condition. Subsection G3 describes what happens when the repair fails and the goods again become defective within 30 business days after the repair. The original text of the bill provided for 14 business days, but the conceptual amendment increases this time period to 30 days. The section requires that the goods be restored within 2 business days after receiving notice from the holder. Again, the conceptual amendment details how to accomplish notice. The conceptual amendment also adds several subsections, G4, G5, G6, G7, and G8. I will go over these in a bit more detail. The conceptual amendment adds subsection G4. A provider, agent, or subcontractor of a warranty service is prohibited from requiring the holder to remove or move an appliance or item before servicing the item covered under the warranty. Subsection G5 is added by the conceptual amendment. It is unlawful for an agent or subcontractor who is contracted to perform the service to cancel a service call for failure to pull out an appliance by a holder. The conceptual amendment also adds G6. It is fraud to charge a holder for a service call that was canceled by the agent or subcontractor assigned to service the warranty when the service was canceled for failure of the holder to move an appliance. The conceptual amendment also adds subsection G7. A service provider of a warranty is prohibited from changing the coverage of items under the warranty without explicit consent of the holder. At least 30 days prior to the renewal of the plan, the provider must provide written notice by mail or email of all changes or updates to the plan to allow the holder time to review the updated changes to the plan. Up to 30 days after the renewal, the holder has the option to update or add to items covered under the plan. And finally, the amendment also adds subsection G8. A provider shall be deemed to be engaged in a deceptive trade practice if in the course of his or her business or occupation, the provider engages in any deceptive trade practice as defined in NRS 598.0915 to 0925 inclusive, and failing to repair or replace defective goods in accordance with subparagraphs 1, 2, and 3. And finally, section 1, subsection 3 defines the word restored. Madam Chair, we'd now like to open the floor to questions. We're more than happy to address any questions regarding the bill and/or the conceptual amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for going through the bill for us. We will start with Assemblymember Miller.
Thank you, Chair. And my question is, it is obvious that this bill's being brought forward from a health and safety standpoint. My question is because and I say this for all of our northern Nevadans who will, there's a higher propensity for this to happen, but it's happened to me even in Las Vegas. Why wasn't the heater included? Because I know when my heater went out and was out for a week, even in Vegas, 53 degrees feels, we think it's great when it's outside. 53 degrees outside is beautiful, right? But 53 degrees inside or water is quite freezing. So I'm just wondering why heaters weren't included as air conditioners.
Jonathan Norman, Norman, for the record, with the Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. The NAC has health and safety for this part of the NRS, and it does include heat and I think plumbing issues and a few other things. I do think it would be appropriate to add heat, especially given the extreme temperatures. I mean, in Las Vegas, right, 50 degrees, but in northern Nevada, it can be a matter of real life and death. So I think it would be appropriate. I can't speak for the assembly member, but I think it makes sense to say that these are, equally dire depending on what time of the year it is.
I want to be clear, that was Las Vegas, and my house was 53 degrees. And so, thank you. That concludes my question.
Vice Chair Howdigi.
Thank you, Chair. I have a quick question. So under Chapter 118, landlords are required to repair essential services within 48 hours. Air conditioning, heating, plumbing, like being one of them, like landlords have to, right? And so a lot of landlords have home warranties on rental properties. And so I just want to make sure that the provisions in this would cover a rental property, the tenant, because the owner is the holder of the contract, right? So would that also extend to a rental property? So if an owner of a property has a tenant in there, the air conditioning goes out, the home warranty can't repair it in time, but the landlord has to repair it within 48 hours, would the home warranty cover the hotel accommodations of the tenant, even though it's the owner of the property who's the holder of the service contract?
Jonathan Norman, for the record. I think that makes a lot of sense to make sure that it's not just because the landlord has an obligation to the tenant, the policy has an obligation to the holder, which is the landlord. If we can, I think it would make sense to make that as clear as possible so that you wouldn't have a home warranty company that is saying this is only to protect the holder living there, right? It's clearly to protect the person living there, and I think that also would make a lot of sense to spell it out so that there is no confusion.
Thank you for that. And so can you walk me through what currently happens now? Because I've worked with home warranties before. I know how they work, and sometimes they'll say, yes, it's parts or equipment or labor. It's one of those three, which is why they can't come service the appliance or air conditioner. So what currently happens now if that's the case? Because again, if you're in the landlord-tenant issue, there's that 48-hour response time, right? And so, or if you are that homeowner, what happens now? Is the only recourse for a homeowner to file a complaint with the Department of Insurance?
Jonathan Norman, for the record. So there are obligations for certain items that deal with health and safety for air conditioning, I think plumbing, and then heating. And it's I think the reason the language was shifted to the 3 days, 3 calendar days, because that's reflected in the NAC. And that's the timeline if the service contract hasn't been able to repair, let's just use the heat, for example, then they have to notify the Division of Insurance, and they have to notify the consumer, and they have to in there put how long the delay is and when it will be repaired, and then the Division of Insurance can have an enforcement action. And then I don't know if Ms. Altman has anything to add to that.
Taylor Altman, for the record. No, I think you've covered everything. It's subsection G2, creating the time frame of 3 calendar days, brings it into line with the NAC and the commission, and filing a report with the Commissioner of Insurance. And I'd also like to point out there are civil penalties here for the home warranty provider not meeting the criteria in the statute. There's a civil penalty that can be assessed by the Commissioner of not more than $500 for each act, not to exceed an aggregate amount of $10,000 for violations of a similar nature. This also provides the holder of the contract with a recourse through NRS Chapter 598, which governs deceptive trade practices. And in Nevada, those are actionable as consumer fraud under Chapter 41. So if someone, arguably, if the provider does not provide the service or the repair within those 3 calendar days, and the other time periods specified in the amendment, the conceptual amendment, then that could be a deceptive trade practice, and a consumer could bring that in a state court for consumer fraud and potentially be entitled to any damages that they have sustained because of that delay. So there are some penalties and enforcement mechanisms that give some power to the consumer.
We will go next to Speaker Yeager.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for presenting the bill. Just a couple of questions on the amendment. I noticed a couple of the provisions that deal with the number of days are changing. So for instance, when you're talking about the air conditioner, it's going from 5 business days to 3 calendar days. That's in the new, I guess, the amended subsection 2. And then in subsection 3, we're going from 14 business days to 30 if something essentially is broken after it was restored. So I just wondered if you could give the rationale for why you're proposing to make those changes in the amendment.
Madam Chair, Linda Hunt for the record, LINDAHUNT. As far as the reason why it was changed from 5 business days to 3 calendar days, when we did, upon doing research, that was already existing law that we had to go by, right?
Yeah, Jonathan Norman for the record. So the NAC for this section specifies that if the service contract doesn't make the repair within 3 days, and that's for air conditioning, heat, and I think some plumbing issues, that they have to make a report to the insurance industry, and then they have to inform the consumer how long it's going to take to make those repairs. So it was reflecting that they've already got 3 calendar days in the administrative code. And then for the, Jonathan Norman for the record, for the subsection 3, moving from 14 business days to 30 business days, it's just reflecting that if you have something like an air conditioner that goes out and there are then chronic ongoing issues, that the repair needs to happen quicker. And so just because something works for 14 business days, so you're looking at 3 weeks, we just thought that that should have a longer period of time where it would trigger an expedited secondary repair, right? Because the first repair did not work.
Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you very much for the presentation of this bill. I think a number of us have had issues with home warranty companies, and so we appreciate what you're trying to do. My question, and I've sent you this, privately in emails, but in section, let's see, section 1, I guess it'd be 1G, it's towards the bottom of the page when we talk about defective, that replacing in the event that the goods become defective. My question is just that term has sort of a defined meaning, right? And usually I associate that with a manufacturer's defect. And so I think that's not what you're trying to get to. I think it's just if it becomes inoperative. So I don't know if maybe you want to change that wording or define defective so that we capture everything you're trying to do.
Jonathan Norman for the record. I think, in layperson's terms, we want when something's not working and it's covered that they have to come out and repair it. And certainly if we can tighten that up by getting rid of the term defective, because that kind of has echoes of warranty between a manufacturer and a consumer, I think that's perfectly appropriate and we can look at that.
Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to go to the section 2 when it talks about the sleeping accommodations in a hotel. Who would determine what hotel? I mean, is it Caesar's Palace? Is it the Motel 6? And are there any limits on the days that the family would be in the hotel?
I'm Linda Hunt for the record. That would be something worked out between the home warranty company and the contract holder, because I see what you're saying. They may want to stay at Caesar's Palace when they can be like 5 minutes away from where their home is at. So it have to be within reason, and we'll make sure we'll work on that part too.
Perfect. If we could put some language in there so we would know a little bit better and the consumer would know, and the policyholder and the company.
Okay.
Assemblymember Urick.
Thank you, Chair. By the way, great job on your first bill. I remember how nervous I was when I first pitched my first bill. You did fabulous. And by the way, I love the idea of what you're doing with this bill. I have, since I heard about it, I've had conversations with numerous people in my family, outside of my family. So many people are dealing with these problems. And so I commend you for bringing an important bill. But with that, and I'm going to tail on my colleague's question that was just asked about these accommodations, these rental accommodations. So I think one of the reasons that these contracts, these service contracts are so popular is because people can mitigate costs, right, that might happen. They're insuring basically against something that might go wrong. And so I think to be accessible, these things need to be affordable. And I'm going to be honest and tell you a concern that I have about this remedy of putting people up in hotels, Caesar's Palace or otherwise, that can get pretty costly. And my concern is that this remedy might, these contract providers aren't going to absorb this cost on their own. They're going to be passing these on and could potentially raise these costs and then limit these contracts, their availability to folks that need them. And so I'm just curious if you've thought about or considered any alternative remedies, like, for example, bringing in a portable air conditioner if it's in the middle of summer so that there is some cooling in the residence that might reduce these overall costs that can keep these contracts at an affordable price. So I don't know if you've anticipated that or why we went to what seems like a pretty extreme measure of putting people up in hotels.
I'm Linda Hunt for the record. Well, basically, like portables, right? I have had discussions about that. And say you have a 5-bedroom house and you need 5 portables. That can also take your utilities up too until they get that air conditioner unit fixed. I'm just asking basically for a reasonable stay for the people until they correct the issue, so like a similar member, Danielle Moreno said, basically to take a look at, how we can put the language into this bill to make sure that it works for everybody. So, you have something to add?
And Jonathan Norman for the record, I appreciate the concept of we don't want to pass costs on to consumers, but we also want to protect them. So just example that news clip, right? We were at like 50, 60 days. So if you're saying, oh, this is a supply chain issue or this is this issue, these companies are in the business of making these repairs, and if they can't make them for 60 days, maybe they shouldn't be in that business and other companies should step in. Things like supply chain, things like a compressor, those are perfectly normal things that every AC company in the Valley has the ability to come and repair. And I think of when, my air conditioner went out, I didn't wait 60 days to get it fixed, right? I called around and I found a company that could come out with a compressor. And so I think having what could be termed as a harsh penalty will have companies looking at how can we meet this need in an efficient way. And it only becomes efficient if they're facing the prospect of paying for a hotel for an extended period of time. But people buy warranties so that they can have their AC repaired in a timely fashion, not in 50 days, not in 60 days. And that's what every consumer who buys these products, none of them think this is going to be for 2 months from now, right, when they're making that purchase. So I do think it is a valid point, but I also think these companies, it's life and death for those consumers, and they're in 117-degree heat. So thank you.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Oops. Thank you, Chair. My first question you've answered out. I got to say, Assemblymember Hunt, I really appreciate you bringing this forward. And as my colleague said, congratulations on your first bill. You picked I won't say it, quote, easy one. That's always the killer. But I do want to, I have a suggestion, and I'll try to make it into a question. Being a Northerner, and I really would like to hear us talk more about heating and hot water heaters. My furnace, my hot water heaters, and I appreciate you considering to bring that in. For your hotel accommodations, I want to suggest to you for maybe some language or something to look at is on my car insurance, I have a rider that I can rent a vehicle for up to $20 a day. Having done that once and find out that I couldn't fit in that car, I went to the $50 a day rental agreement with them, which upped my insurance slightly, admittedly, but at least it gave me some options. And I would suggest if, and you don't have to answer if Chair lets me get away with it, just that you think in some of those terms also is providing some options. That way both both parties have some freedom in it and will still get coverage. So congratulations, thank you very much. And my question is, it's a beautiful day, isn't it?
I'll allow that question. Committee members, any additional questions? Assemblymember Kasama.
Thank you, Chair. I could speak on so many things on this bill, and thank you for bringing this. And I know the comment was made. I just have to add to it about the hotel. I had a tenant that booked themselves into a suite at Red Rock, and we're demanding that we reimburse that for the days. So again, I'm just echoing my colleagues' comments. I think we need to tighten something up there because we said we would reimburse up to like residence in rate or something like that. But and I just have to thank you for your amendment here where the service provider is asking you, they cannot deny the claim for you not pulling out the appliance. I actually had a case where we had a call, they came out, they said we can't do anything because the appliance needed pulled out. We pulled the appliance out, they came back, and now they said because they didn't disconnect it, they couldn't work on it. Same company. And so my poor people were without service for a while. But with that said, my question is, my concern is, because I agree with so much of this, is where we're going from 5 business days to 3 calendar days. I just speak from experience that I actually know some of them just can't meet that deadline, particularly in the summer. You've got air conditioning people just running around because everybody's AC is going out, and you have trouble getting enough providers. And they are looking for parts, and there is a delay. And so are you going to do any allowance for their waiting for these parts? Because they really are sometimes, and they can't get them. And the rule in statute is that we don't have to repair it within 48 hours. We have to address it within 48 hours. And so if we're addressing it and we have the service provider come out and they can't get the part for 6 days and everybody else is trying to get the part, is there any allowance for that, or would you consider that? Just, like I said, there's so much in this bill I like, but I just know that that's going to be a problem. And then what would be their penalty?
Jonathan Norman, for the record. I think, I guess it's a balance, right? Because you want to have it treated like, when I think of it, I want this treated like my home, like I would treat my home, right? And I think that's what, if you're a homeowner and you live in that dwelling, that's how you want them to react. And so I think, I certainly think it would be if there's better language that has some ability for some allowance, but also not allowing, if a service contract company contracts with, HVAC company A, and HVAC company A is also running their own business where they're meeting their clients, and they get a lump sum, every month for these calls, making sure that under the home warranty, those calls are prioritized just like a customer calling you out of the phone book. And so I think it would take some delicate, drafting and maybe in regulation to address that, because it's very nuanced, because you want them to be treated like they're paying full freight and calling out of the phone book. And I think that sometimes when you're on a warranty, you're put not at the front of the line.
Follow-up, Chair. I agree with that. And so I think them not responding because they're overloaded means they have to have better business practices and hire more people. I don't know if there's a way to somehow consider if there is, if they could document they are truly waiting for the part, because I truly believe that sometimes that happens. But I agree, as far as a business practice, not just because you're overloaded, then you need to hire more people if that's the business you want to be in.
Jonathan Norman, for the record, I think that makes sense, and we can explore those. I know you have a lot of experience with home warranties, so maybe you might have some ideas we can talk about offline.
Yeah, be delighted to. Thank you.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. I did have a couple questions, but my colleagues asked them, especially about the heater. I was going to ask if you would be able to add that, especially for the folks in the north. I know I keep my office at 78 when I'm here, so the heater is really important. You did amazing, so thank you for being here. I will now open up for support testimony. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 231? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Greg Esposito, E-S-P-O-S-I-T-O. This recently happened to me, actually. It wasn't with my air conditioner. It was with an appliance. I had a home warranty purchased for me as I purchased a new house. Decided to try and use the service just to see what it's about. And very much a scam, very difficult to work with. You don't get to speak to live people. You're using a dashboard on your computer to order services. Then when the technician comes out, and I had 4 different technicians come out for 4 different problems. It's always an upsell. You pay $100 just to get the technician out, and the first technician couldn't fix it. The second technician could after I paid a second $100 for a different company. And so to think about, I call them the little old ladies with air conditioning problems who are really desperate to get these things fixed. It's a serious health issue for them. I was having problems getting through on the phone using this dashboard. I can't imagine if I was somebody who wasn't proficient at this stuff, having to navigate a confusing dashboard and unhelpful technicians who are really out to upsell you, and they don't really care who you are. And the deceptive practices that these dashboards have where, hey, do you want to finish this work order? And a big button there, and if you accidentally click it, you don't understand that you're about to get charged for the estimate that contractor said that they were going to charge you if you got it fixed. And so I truly appreciate the Assembly member bringing this forward. It's very necessary as a life safety issue, and for life safety systems, maybe that's the verbiage you use, life safety systems in a person's home. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Susie Martinez, and I am the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Nevada State AFL-CIO. And very similar to the video that we saw, one of my coworkers, Brenda, she had had major surgery. She gave her kidney to her husband, so she was already a little sick, ailing, right? And all of a sudden, her air conditioner goes out, and it took several months for them to fix it. Several months. So the burden was put on her where she had to spend her personal money and go to a hotel to stay there because her and her dog were about to die. And again, like I told you, she was not, her health was not in good condition, right? She'd also still come to work every day, and I think she'd actually stay a little longer, probably because it was a little cooler at work than it was in her home. But who has to do that? Again, the burden should not be on the consumer. When we are sitting here paying for these warranties, when I make that payment, I make it right away, and they take it very quickly and cash those checks, don't they? So the burden should be on them, not on the consumer. It's no different than a car insurance. If you're paying for your car insurance, you're not going to wait several months for your car to get fixed. You need to get to work, take the kids to school, get your grocery shopping. Your life needs to continue as it should be, right? Same thing with these policies. There's no reason why it should be the consumer who has to suffer, and several months in our Vegas heat. Many of you guys know how hot it was. A lot of you guys are from Vegas. You know how hot it is. I can't even get my dog to pee in the summer because it's so hot, because it doesn't even want to go out. So imagine being in your home when there is no air conditioning. and you now have to move to a hotel or stay with a family member or even a friend. Who wants to do that? We all want to stay in our home. So I applaud the Assemblymember Hunt for this bill, and the AFL completely supports it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 231? I don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 231, please press star 9 to join the queue. Chair, we do not have any callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 231. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You will each have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Paige Barnes with the Ferrado Company, here today on behalf of the National Home Service Contractors Association. First, I'd like to thank Assemblymember Hunt. We have met with her a few times already on this bill, and will continue to do so. We are committed to continue conversations to try to come to a solution on this. With my time today, I'd like to outline just a few of our concerns and sort of the areas of which we are looking for requested changes. First, the language does not consider availability of parts, delivery timelines, or other circumstances that are beyond the provider's control. We'd like to align the bill language with verbiage that is standard in contracts such as wear and tear notice protocol and covered air conditioners or heaters, as some of you have mentioned. Additionally, there is no parameter for hotel accommodation requirement. It's open-ended and the responsibility of the provider is unclear. We'd like to explore some alternatives that easily bring reliefs to residents, such as providing portable air conditioners or heaters. Until the repairs are complete, we believe that this will be an easier solution while keeping the customer in their home and provide them with a comfortable environment while repairs are being made. Again, we'd really like to thank the sponsors' willingness to meet with us and continue conversations on this. Thank you, Chair.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, members of the Assembly Commerce and Labor Committee. I'm Jesse Wadhams with the law firm of Black & Wadhams, representing the Service Contract Industry Council today. At this time, we are opposed to Assembly Bill 231. And I mentioned to Member Hunt that we would be committed to working with her on and all of the stakeholders on this bill. I think it's important that we try to resolve these issues as much as we can. As noted in the presentation, NRS 690C covers a whole host of different kinds of products, not only the major appliances that have been discussed, but also things like your smartphone or car parts. So we look forward to working with the sponsor on this legislation, and I will certainly stand on the comments my colleague Ms. Barnes made. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in opposition in Carson City? I don't see anyone. I see someone at the table in Las Vegas. You may begin when you're ready. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Jordan Crane-Buell. I'm the Executive Director of the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors of Nevada. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee, for allowing me to speak today. My issue is not regarding the home warranty that companies. That's a separate issue. My issue is with the contractors that deal with those companies. What this will do is you'll drive away the good contractors from doing this type of work, the reputable contractors, because they just can't afford to do it. There's not that much written into their agreements to allow them to be involved in this. So they'll either pass it on and increase the cost of the service, or they just simply. I had 2 contractors today tell me they just won't do it. They'll stay away from it. Whether you like it or not, supply chain issues are a real issue. It's not fabrication. It's a real issue. There are supply chain issues, and to get parts, especially for older units, is an issue. Okay, it is an issue in the wintertime in the north and even in the south and the summertime AC. I just had my heater go out last month in my home, in my own home. It went out Saturday morning. By the time I was able to get it fixed by one of my contractors, who I believe treated me very fairly and did it as quick as possible, it got fixed on Tuesday. If that's the case, they would not be in compliance. Okay, that's 3 days is pretty tough to do. The big concern is there's no limitation on cost. There's no limitation on what hotel. Do they want to stay at Caesar's Palace, or as it was mentioned, where do they want, how long can they stay there? What if there's a dispute? Well, is it working, or is it cool enough? Is it not cool enough? So they want to stay in the hotel and those accommodations. And then the last thing is I'm a retired code official for a jurisdiction in the state of Nevada for plumbing and HVAC. I admittedly have not seen the amendments that have been posted on Nellis. That must have happened today. My apology, I didn't see it, but I do have concerns in the definition of accessible according to the Uniform Mechanical Code.
Sir, your time is finalizing, so if you can please, thank you. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas that wishes to testify in opposition? Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 231, please press star 9 to join the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. We'll move to testimony in neutral to Assembly Bill 231. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Member and members of the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor. My name is Adam Plain, A-D-A-M-P-L-A-I-N. I'm the Insurance Regulation Liaison for the Nevada Division of Insurance. I submitted written testimony this morning. I apologize for missing the deadline, but hopefully you will eventually get that in your inboxes. But I'm here to say that the Nevada Division of Insurance of the Department of Business and Industry is here today to testify neutral on Assembly Bill 231. The division is the primary regulator of service contract and service contract providers pursuant to Chapter 690C of the Nevada Revised Statutes and Nevada Administrative Code. Nevada Administrative Code 69C.110 provides that service contracts related to goods that are, quote, essential to the health and safety, end quote, of the contract holder must contain a statement that if an emergency related to items covered by the service contract renders a dwelling unfit for a person to live in and immediately endangers the health and safety of the occupants of the dwelling, quote, repairs will commence within 24 hours after the report of the claim and must be completed as soon as reasonably practicable thereafter, end quote. If the service contract provider determines that repairs cannot be completed within 3 calendar days after receiving report of the claim, the service contract provider must give regular status updates on the claim to the contract holder and the commissioner. In calendar year 2024, the division received 8,539 initial reports stemming from NAC 690C.110 requirements. The division anticipates that passage of Assembly Bill 231 will grant the agency additional authority to ensure that repairs covered under a service contract are completed in a timely fashion, especially as it regards air conditioning units. We would anticipate some participants in the service contract industry to reevaluate their participation if market factors such as parts availability, service call volume, or repair technician availability affect the service contract provider's ability to comply with the provisions of AB 231.
Sir, can I have you finalize your remarks, please?
Certainly. The division has no statutory authority over service contract rates and cannot speculate on effects of this bill may have in that regard. As always, we're available to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us today. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 231? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 231, please press *9 to join the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Assemblymember Hunt, would you like to give any final remarks?
Assemblymember Linda Hunt for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair Mazzola and members of the committee. You know, I urge your support for Assembly Bill 231, which aims to protect consumers by ensuring they receive critical services, especially life-threatening weather conditions, during life-threatening weather conditions. I'm committed to work with stakeholders to seek resolution and will continue discussions. Thank you again, Madam Chair Mazzola and the committee. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you again for presenting such an important bill and to also choosing Commerce and Labor as your first presentation. Only up from here. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 231. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 177. This measure makes various changes relating to audiology, fitting and dispensing hearing aids, and speech-language pathology. Before we get started, I would just like everyone to know that I am going to limit testimony. I'm going to give 30 minutes to support, 30 minutes to opposition, and 30 minutes to neutral, which will be 10 minutes here in Carson City, 10 minutes in Las Vegas, and 10 minutes on the phones. And with that, Assemblymember Gonzalez, you may start when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair Marzola and members of the committee. My name is Assemblymember Cecilia Gonzalez, and I proudly represent Assembly District 16. With me today is Isaac from Strategies 360 and Jennifer Pierce, who is the Executive Director of the Speech Language Pathology and Hearing Aid Dispensing Board. This board regulates these qualified practitioners in Nevada. A speech language pathologist is an expert in communication and helps people who have problems with speech sounds, language, social communication, fluency, and feeding and swallowing. An audiologist's diagnosis manages and treats hearing, balance, or ear problems. He or she works in the field of audiology, which is a science of hearing and balance, and determines the severity and types of hearing loss a patient has and develops a plan for treatment. A hearing aid dispenser is a licensed professional who sells, fits, and adjusts hearing aids for adults. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to my co-presenters, who are way more versed in the subject matter here today. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. Thank you for having us here today to consider Assembly Bill 177.
Can you remember to state and spell your name for the record?
For the record, my name is Jennifer Pierce, Jennifer Pierce, and I am the Executive Director of the Nevada Speech Language Pathology, Audiology, and Hearing Aid Dispensing Board. I'm joined today by our licensing coordinator, Stacy Whitaker, behind me in the room, and members of our board representing all three areas of practice who are also available to assist with questions. Timothy Hunsaker, dispensing audiologist and acting board chair, is present on Zoom. Adrian Williams, speech-language pathologist and board financial reviewer, is present here today to my left. And Linnea Anderson, hearing aid specialist, is present on Zoom as well. Before addressing our bill, I would like to give you a brief overview of our board, which was established in the 2015 legislative session through consolidation of the Hearing Aid Specialists Board and Speech Language Pathology Board, and intended to increase licensing efficiencies for those similar and overlapping professions, as dispensing audiologists were required to hold license with both boards. Our board is composed of 3 speech language pathologists representing different specialty areas, including university, public school, hospital, or private practice, 2 audiologists, one of which must be a dispensing audiologist, 1 hearing aid specialist, and 1 public member. We also have an advisory committee on fitting and dispensing hearing aids, which is permanently established in regulation. And we convened a temporary SLP subcommittee that spent the past year working on this bill and recommendations for future regulation revisions related to SLP assistance. The board operates with just a small staff made up of myself, Ms. Whitaker, who works half-time for our board, and an investigator used on an as-needed basis. We are able to issue licenses not requiring hearing aid dispensing exams within an average of 5 calendar days of receiving a completed application. This drops to 3 days on average for expedited licenses by endorsement. And for applicants requiring dispensing exams, we are able to schedule them and issue a license in just under 90 days on average. The board's census at the end of 2024 totaled 1,701 licensees, including just over 1,400 speech-language pathologists, 185 audiologists and dispensing audiologists, and 107 hearing aid specialists and apprentices. The board's census has steadily grown by almost 700 licensees since the end of 2016, and we have seen an 8% increase in out-of-state licensees. Assembly Bill 177 makes 3 types of revisions to NRS 637B related to all 3 practitioner types regulated by the board: licensing, scope of practice, and several administrative sections within the chapter. These revisions will result in increased consumer access to services, expanded licensing eligibility, reciprocity, and portability, reduction in licensing barriers, expanded scopes of practice, and removal of unneeded or obsolete rules and references. Speech-language pathology licensing revisions add a new licensing path for speech-language pathology assistants, or SLPAs. Regulation of SLP assistants is widespread nationally, and at least 10 other similar professions here already license assistants. Nevada has one of the lowest ratios of SLPs to residents, and we believe that assistants can help fill this shortage. These revisions were developed in collaboration with the Nevada Department of Education following its 2023 regulation change to sunset the use of bachelor's level SLP personnel in October 2026. This change will require a master's degree for the NDE endorsement going forward and grandfather current staff in to continue in their current roles as long as they maintain that active endorsement. These staff will then be eligible for this board's SLPA license, as they are not currently known to or licensed by our board. This SLPA license would allow these holders to also work in any area of speech-language pathology outside of the school system, as in private practice or other private contracting. Section 18 also closes the loop on the historical exception to this chapter for school-based personnel, which applies to both the current bachelor's level staff and board licensees working for NDE. Future regulation revisions would establish detailed requirements addressing SLPA licensing, clinical training, scope of practice, and supervision. Audiology licensing revisions address the examinations, additional endorsement, and related fee required for audiologists to fit and dispense hearing aids in Nevada. Combined exam fees exceed $400, and the practical exam requires travel to Nevada with portable audiometric equipment and a second person to sit as the test subject. Only 12 other states require a separate endorsement to fit and dispense hearing aids. 9 other states require a written exam, and just 3 other states require a practical exam. Our exam pass rate data indicates that audiologists are well prepared to fit and dispense hearing aids, and there are few available options in our laws, regulations, or policies to fully waive these for experienced out-of-state licensees. The exams may be deferred by out-of-state licensees through our temporary dispensing license, allowing immediate practice and providing 1 year to complete the exams, which only delays the burden. The board also supports current bills proposing membership in the Audiology Speech-Language Pathology Interstate Compact, which does not require these exams or separate endorsement. Hearing aid specialist licensing revisions remove the National Board Certification in Hearing Instrument Sciences, or NBC-HIS, as a license requirement to change how licensing standards are met, as this certification is not appropriate as an entry-level requirement according to NBC-HIS, is only currently required in Nevada and Utah, requires 2 years' experience and a current state license to sit for the exam, adds an additional cost of $225 for the exam to overall licensing fees, and may already be deferred by out-of-state licensees with our provisional license. Our apprenticeship will still require 2 years of academic training and on-site work experience, and future regulation revisions would require 1 year of training or licensure for an applicant holding an out-of-state license or having completed training and experience in another state, which is consistent with the allowance for an apprentice to practice without direct supervision after 1 year. Revisions to the SLP scope of practice are simply a clarification on the allowable use of a wide variety of oral and nasal endoscopic methods. Revisions to the audiology scope of practice broaden language from cochlear implants to implantable hearing devices to encompass evolving technology, remove the requirement for a physician's request or order to diagnose, and add language to align with the FDA final rule on over-the-counter hearing aids to clarify prescription authority. Revisions to the hearing aid fitting and dispensing scope of practice also add language to align with the FDA final rule to clarify prescription authority, add tinnitus care and certification as recommended by the International Hearing Society, as hearing aids may be used for tinnitus masking and treatment, and add cerumen management as recommended by the International Hearing Society, with plans to establish detailed regulations modeled after those used in the state of Tennessee to require specialized training and establish strict parameters around this activity. General and fee cap revisions also include a number of changes to align with the FDA final rule on over-the-counter hearing aids, including repealing the requirement for a medical evaluation or waiver to obtain hearing aids, streamlining procedures for issuing expedited licenses by endorsement, and increasing the caps on actual fees that may be charged by regulation. While not a focal point of this bill, all actual fees are at the maximum caps except for one, and no actual fee increases are planned at this time. In summary, it is our intent through this bill to both improve access for consumers and remove licensing barriers to expand eligibility, reciprocity, and portability for licensees. Thank you again for your time today, and we would be happy to answer questions.
Thank you for being with us today and your presentation. Oh,
sorry. Sorry, Chair. Sorry. It's been a morning. I also just wanted to note on the record that we are working, and I've been in conversation with Brad from CCSD to just, make sure that we get to agreement. We obviously don't want to take away anybody's jobs or make it harder for folks that are already in this profession. And so hopefully the intent will align with that in the coming work session. Thank you.
thank you, Assemblymember. I appreciate that statement. Committee members, are there any questions? Assemblymember Kasama.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask a question regarding going from a bachelor's to a master's. It seems having that extra requirement that we have such a shortage of healthcare providers in any area right now, and that seems to me that that would increase the burden to get more people licensed. And so I have concerns with raising that level, because have there been service providers that only have a bachelor's that have done a bad job that you feel needs to have a master's, or what is the reasoning there?
Jennifer Pierce for the record, through the chair to Assemblymember Kasama.
You can go direct.
Thank you. Assemblymember Kasama, can I clarify, are you asking about SLPs for the going from the bachelor's to the master's? Is that the question? Okay. So the board does not license any bachelor's level speech-language pathologist, and actually the standard nationally is that you must hold a master's degree in speech-language pathology or communication sciences and disorders, and typically complete a one-year clinical fellowship post master's. And the references to the bachelor's level staff that provide SLP services are within the Nevada Department of Education. So specifically, the NDE NAC 391.370 has historically allowed a person with either a bachelor's degree in speech-language pathology and communication sciences, or any bachelor's degree, or master's to obtain an endorsement to teach pupils with speech language disorders. And our board has historically had the exception that's included in section 18 that has sort of conceded that that was necessary for the department to use those personnel due to shortages. So our board only licenses master's level SLPs. You can get a provisional once you've completed your master's but haven't completed the clinical fellowship. Once that's awarded, you're eligible to obtain a standard license. So the references to the bachelor's is our bill sections revising our practice law now that NDE has made the move in their regulation change from 2023 to sunset that use of bachelor's level personnel. So as of October 1, 2026, they will no longer issue that endorsement to someone holding a bachelor's degree. They will require either a master's degree or the certification provided by ASHA, and grandfather in staff who currently hold that endorsement. And so for our SLP assistants, the bachelor's degree is appropriate, and so that's the level of education that was recommended by the SLP subcommittee for an SLP assistant.
Follow-up, Chair? Yes. So I believe you said NDE, so that is the national?
I'm sorry, Nevada Department of Education. Jennifer Pierce,
Oh.
for the record.
Okay, thank you.
Assemblymember Torres Fawcett.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, for bringing me this piece of legislation. I'm going to ask some questions along the same lines just to get a better understanding. And I know I had the opportunity to speak with the bill sponsor about this piece of legislation ahead of time too. So I just want to make it clear. So right now, with a bachelor's degree, you would not be able to receive an SLPA license, or you would not be able to receive an SLP license at this time, right? A master's is required in order to get an SLP license. Okay, so I see nodding heads, so I think I'm along the same lines then. So with an SLPA license, then you would have somebody with that 4-year degree who right now would not be able to get any type of license with a speech language. They would not be able to get the full license. They would now be able to qualify to get the SLPA license that would allow for them to work under a speech language pathologist. Is that correct?
Jennifer Pierce, for the record, yes, correct. So our board currently does not have an SLPA license, which is added into the bill, but yes, somebody holding a bachelor's degree in communication sciences or disorders or speech language pathology currently would not be eligible for a license with our board at all.
Thank you. So just as a follow-up to that, then would an educator that's working within that field, if they are, let's say they have a master's and they have that endorsement, then they're actually not required to go separately. They would not need to go get that license unless they wanted to work outside of the scope of the work that they're doing within the school, correct? Or would they be required to get both licenses in order to provide their services? Or does it depend too on the type of services that they're providing?
Correct. So anybody who is, so currently under our NRS in section 18, a person holding the NDE endorsement is exempt from our practice law in our chapter if they are holding that NDE endorsement and are working within the scope of that endorsement. So it wouldn't include private practice in the summer, that sort of thing. So correct. So it would essentially be any practice outside of that full-time school setting.
Thank you for that clarification. I think for me, this piece of legislation looks like it's allowing for us to, like, expanding more job opportunities for speech language pathologists that may only have a bachelor's. So I appreciate that because I think it addresses a lot of the concerns that we were sent via email. And I just want to be clear one final time, I'm sorry, Chair, but the issue regarding the SLPs that I was receiving via email from educators, that is a concern with the NAC. Is that correct? That's not something that is addressed in this piece of legislation, but that's something that is a change to the NAC that was submitted from the Commission on Professional Standards in Education, correct?
Jennifer Pierce, for the record. I think so, but I think yes. So the regulation change that the Nevada Department of Education put through in 2020 23 is our 125-22, and it essentially sunsetted the use of those bachelor's level staff as of October 1, 2026. Those staff will be grandfathered in as part of that regulation change, so they would be able, under that NAC revision, to stay in those roles. My understanding is that the concern is regarding our removal of the applicability section in 18 that would essentially require them to obtain our SLPA license, and we've built in the opportunity in Section 9 under the licensing requirements that would essentially be an automatic qualifier to obtain our SLPA license.
Vice Chair Howdigi.
Okay, I think I had the similar question like my colleague, and I think I'm going to piggyback off her last question because I think I have the same question. It was my understanding that NDE in 23 changed regulations to require the national certification, and they were going to allow, it was going to be implemented till 2026, giving people 3 years to get that extra national certification. And I think that what my colleague was referring to was the opposition that we're getting is, in fact, to that portion. It's regarding requiring them to get national certification, which is what the regulation touched, not this bill. So all the opposition we're getting is saying, please grandfather us in, don't require us to get this national certification, which NDE required in 23 and has graciously given 3 years to get. And so I think I wanted to make that clear that the opposition we're getting seems to be in conflict with what your bill does, Assembly Member. Is that correct?
Yes. Jennifer Pierce for the record, correct. So the NDE regulation essentially changed the parameters, changed the rules around how you could obtain the endorsement, the NDE endorsement from the Nevada Department of Education to teach pupils with speech and language impairments. And so originally there were like 4 options. You could hold the ASHA Certificate of Clinical Competence, a license with this board, which requires the ASHA Certificate of Clinical Competence for a standard license. A person could hold a bachelor's or master's degree in speech language pathology or communication science disorders with 8 hours of clinical training, or they could have completed a bachelor's degree or master's in anything and then completed post-baccalaureate hours through the program that's been going on at Nevada State University. So my understanding as we worked with Nevada Department of Education was they were working closely with Nevada State University to ensure that the cohorts that had already started that post-bac program at NSU would have time to get through it, get through that program before the sunsetting occurred so they could hold the endorsement before they were no longer being issued. So I think my understanding of the opposition is that we are also then removing the piece in our applicability of chapter that says that this chapter is not applicable to those people, because what it does is it ends up making our master's level SLPs who work full-time for NDE also not under the authority of our chapter as well. And so it would essentially standardize regulation for everyone.
Okay, thank you for that. I think the opposition seems to be, that I've received seems to be worded a little different, but I'll share it with the Assembly Member. And I do have one question regarding the bill. It's section 14 sub 7. I just want to know why you're removing that portion where it allows them to work with a physician to diagnose.
Jennifer Pierce for the record. So my understanding is that our audiologists have to hold a doctoral degree, and then they complete a 1-year externship. And my understanding is that it's not necessary for an audiologist to have a physician ask them or provide an order for them to give a diagnosis, and that often it's, I think, more of a payer issue. I know that Medicaid at least doesn't require a doctor's order for them to diagnose.
Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you very much. My question is section 22, subsection 2, where we're talking about the active member of or spouse of an active member of armed forces applying for an endorsement. It seems as though throughout the majority of your bill change, you were striking the word endorsement. And so I just want to make sure that you're not striking that for the veteran to be getting, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you, Assemblymember Cole. Jennifer Pierce for the record. We do have endorsement in a few places that gets a little bit confusing, but in section 22, the striking of endorsement in the fees is related to the related revisions to the repealed sections in section 39 that would effectively remove the requirement for a dispensing audiologist to hold a separate endorsement to dispense and fit hearing aids, and also the exams that are required. So this is a reference to that, to the endorsement. The endorsement, or the wording regarding military members, is related to our license by endorsement section, which is in 637B.203 and 204. And so that still would stay into place. The license by endorsement is more of like the reciprocal licensing, whereas when we are referencing this or striking endorsement in most of the bill, it's referencing the repeal of the dispensing endorsement for audiologists.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Ms. Pierce, you're wonderful. But I've got to tell you, I got one small issue. I start to understand part of this bill, and then I get confused again. I will tell you, I spent a good part of the weekend and several days of last week responding to negative emails about this. So that's what I've just got to clarify. Speaking strictly about the Department of Education, NDE, as you say, speech licensed pathologists currently working in any high school or any school within any school district within the state who only has a bachelor's degree will be grandfathered in and allowed to keep practicing in their capacity effective, I think you said 1 October 26? Is that correct?
Jennifer Pierce, for the record, yes. So in the regulation revision that the Nevada Department of Education put through, there is a section, I don't have it, but there's a section that essentially says that a person who holds only a license to teach special education with an endorsement to teach pupils ages 3 to 21 inclusive who have speech and language impairments, which is issued on or before October 1, 2026, and who does not meet the requirements of subsection 2, which are the new requirements to obtain the endorsement, A, may continue to hold such an endorsement, and B, must comply with the requirements of NAC 391.065.
And Chair, if I may just follow up with another simple. So thank you for that explanation. That reduces so much of the negative emails received. But building upon that, teacher A is teaching in school district and moves from Clark County to Washoe County. Will they still hold the endorsement, or do they have to stay specific to either the district or the school that they're in?
I don't know that I can speak for the Nevada Department of Education, but my understanding would be that because it's a state Department of Education endorsement, it would transfer.
I think that's it. I appreciate it. Wish I'd talked to you last week. You would have made my weekend better. Thank you, Chair.
Committee members, are there any additional questions? I don't see any. So I do have a question, and I'm not sure if you guys are able to answer, maybe someone who will be testifying later in the emails that we have been receiving. So it's my understanding we have about 411 SLPs in this state, and about half of that, about 204 of them will be reclassified as support staff because they are not going to meet the new requirement, which also means if they're reclassified, their pay will change as well. It will decrease. Is that correct? And if you can't answer that, it's okay.
Jennifer Pierce, for the record. What I can say regarding our bill is that our bill does not specifically make any of those changes. I just found out about that Friday, and I believe that's something that the school districts are indicating would happen should their staff be required to obtain our SLPA license, but that's not something I can confirm or deny.
Fair, thank you. Hopefully someone from the school district will be able to answer my question. Committee members, any questions? I don't see any. Thank you for the presentation. We will move to testimony in support. Again, just to remind everyone, I will give 30 minutes to support, 30 minutes to opposition, and 30 minutes to neutral. 10 minutes in Carson City, 10 minutes in Las Vegas, and 10 minutes for anyone calling in. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. Please begin your support testimony.
Thank you, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. Kanani Espinoza, Espinoza, here on behalf of Nevada State University. As mentioned in the presentation, Nevada State University has both a bachelor's of speech pathology as well as a master's in speech language pathology, which they started the graduate program in 2019. So we express our support, and then also on behalf of UNLV. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. Sheila Bray, spelled B-R-A-Y, with the University of Nevada, Reno. We're here to provide our support for AB 177. We do believe this will open up pathways for our unique learners and teachers in Nevada. And just one other thing I wanted to mention, our speech pathology and audiology program is planning to open up a bachelor's level program to help these workforce needs. So we're in great support. Thank you.
Madam Chair and esteemed members of the committee, I'm Dr. Katie Allen. I'm a speech pathologist for the last 16 years. Oh, I'm sorry, Katieallen. I'm also the president of the Nevada Speech Language Hearing Association, or NISHA, supporting AB 177. This legislation is vital for addressing two critical issues: an impending workforce shortage of qualified speech language pathologists, and the urgent need to protect the public from misrepresentation by underqualified practitioners. Speech language pathology is a specialized field requiring a master's degree. Nevada stands as the last state in the nation to permit bachelor's level practitioners, a practice that is fundamentally misaligned with national standards. A 2026 NDE, or Nevada Department of Education regulation, will eliminate the ability of school districts to hire new bachelor's level practitioners to meet caseload demands where they currently comprise a significant 39% of the workforce. Nevada already faces a severe SLP shortage with the lowest SLP to resident ratio in the nation, 32.7 per 100,000 residents compared to the national average of 60 per 100,000 residents. This bill provides a crucial pathway for current bachelor's level practitioners to become licensed SLP assistants, ensuring continuity of essential services while upholding professional standards. Currently, both master's and bachelor's level practitioners are often called speech language pathologists within school districts, misleading the public about bachelor's level practitioners' qualifications and training. NISHA, dedicated to promoting quality speech language and hearing services, believes this misrepresentation must be addressed to protect the public, which AB 177 does. We acknowledge opposition from currently unregulated bachelor's level practitioners, as this bill will bring them under state regulation. AB 177 is crucial for safeguarding the quality of SLP services in Nevada, ensuring all Nevadans receive the higher standard of care. Thank you for your consideration.
Madam Chair and committee, my name is Shauna Ross, Shawnaross. I'm also a member of NISHA and am here to support the bill. I'm not going to repeat what she just said, but we sent these in writing as well for all of you. And if anybody has questions, we are open to answering anything as well. Thank you.
Thank you for being here in your testimony today. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 177? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 177, please press *9 now to join the queue.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Garrett.
JESSICAGARRETT. And I'm here today to express my strong support for the proposed legislation allowing speech-language pathology assistants to practice in the state of Nevada. As an SLP and private practice owner in Nevada, I have witnessed firsthand the increasing demand for speech and language services across our communities. This bill is a crucial step toward improving access to care for children and families in need, addressing workforce shortages, and enhancing the efficiency of speech-language services. It's come to my attention that school districts in Nevada are opposing the bill, citing concerns about its impact on existing personnel. Historically, certain districts have employed individuals with a bachelor's level SLP. They've been permitted to practice without the licensure or education to do so, and this practice will no longer be allowed as of 2026, with those currently in this position being grandfathered in, allowing them to continue in their role. The aim of this bill is to allow SLPAs to practice in Nevada and increase access to speech and language services in both schools and the communities. The integration of SLPAs into our state's workforce offers several benefits, including support for existing personnel, enhancing service delivery, and alignment with national standards. In summary, allowing SLPAs to practice in Nevada will increase access to speech and language services, reduce wait lists and service delays caused by the shortage of licensed SLPs, support existing personnel by distributing workloads more effectively, and align our state's practices with national standards. Our goal should be to elevate the standard of care in Nevada and support our communities with accessible, quality care. By integrating SLPAs into our workforce, we are raising the bar, creating structured career pathways, and ensuring that all individuals in our state have access to skilled, knowledgeable, and credentialed professionals. Nevada has an opportunity to set a precedent for excellence in service delivery, prioritizing education, training, and the well-being of our most vulnerable populations. I urge you to support this bill and help Nevada take a meaningful step towards strengthening our speech-language workforce, improve access to care, and uphold the highest standards of professional practice. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide additional testimony in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 177. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see any. I see people in Las Vegas. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready. You have 2 minutes each.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Adams, Tyleradams, resident of Nevada for over 20 years. No corporate or special interest here. So today's discussion of this bill mentioned that current educational SLPs, with just a bachelor's degree, will be grandfathered in their positions by the Nevada Department of Education. I extensively read this bill and I did not see that anywhere in here. So I implore for this language to be more clear. I think that's where a lot of the opposition is stemming from. It's just very unclear in this bill. Also, I'd like to just note that current legislation allows educators to practice speech-language pathology after obtaining a bachelor's degree and passing the appropriate practice exam. This is the same qualifications as special education and general education teachers. So also regarding Section 22 of this bill, I think it's very disingenuous to double the yearly fees, especially during a time when teachers and members of our community can't even afford their typical groceries or rent. So it's very disheartening that the proposed legislation proposes to increase fees on members of the community that help our children grow, succeed, and help our children's voices be heard. And I would personally feel ashamed for increasing these costs on these members of the community. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, Assembly Committee members. My name is Marie Nices, M-A-R-I-E-N-E-I-S-E-S-S. I'm the president of the Clark County Education Association. I'm speaking today in opposition to AB 17. While we recognize the importance of necessary changes to improve public education, this bill exasperates the ongoing educator shortage and further complicates efforts to address the diverse needs of our special education students. AB 177 eliminates the exemption for school-based speech-language pathologists, SLPs, already credentialed by NDE, requiring them to obtain an additional state license. It is not clear whether this bill will reclassify current school-based SLPs as support staff, or SLPAs. CCSD Speech Language Therapy Services Department employs 411 SLPs who provide therapy to 19,536 students. CCSD relies on the services provided by bachelor-level SLPs. The changes will create a pipeline issue. This will negatively impact all students who rely on these critical IEP services. CCEA understands the need to hold high standards, but SLPs have already been identified as an area of critical labor shortage. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone broadcast. Is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 177, please press star 9 to join the queue.
Good afternoon, Chairman Marzola and esteemed members of the committee. My name is Stephanie Chayeski, STEPHANIE and I'm here today on behalf of the Academy of Doctors of Audiology, a leading national organization representing audiologists in Nevada and across the United States. This testimony is to supplement and highlight the letter of opposition that ADA submitted to the committee on Friday. Most of the concerns thus far have centered on whether a provider with a bachelor's degree can practice to the level of that with a master's degree. I'm here to talk to you today about concerns about allowing individuals with a high school diploma to be allowed to practice at the level of those with a doctoral degree. ADA and its member audiologists strongly oppose provisions within AB 177 that would authorize hearing instrument specialists to perform cerumen management and tinnitus treatment services while simultaneously reducing their licensure requirements and tying the training for tinnitus to an online program owned and operated by the International Hearing Society, posing an unmanageable conflict of interest that decimates consumer protections. These provisions, if enacted, pose significant risks to public health and safety by allowing individuals without appropriate training, education, and expertise to perform complex medical procedures. Cerumen management is a complex medical procedure that requires comprehensive knowledge of the anatomy and physiology. Similarly, tinnitus, commonly known as ringing in the ears, is often a symptom of underlying medical conditions such as vascular disorders, tumors, or even side effects from certain medications. It's very important that these conditions are treated by people with a high level of education and training. Allowing hearing instrument specialists to perform these services independently without the extensive post-secondary education and clinical training commensurate with audiologists, physicians, and other healthcare providers that do these services would lower the standard of care.
Ma'am, can you wrap up your testimony, please?
Yes, I would just like to note that the state of Nebraska's Department of Health recently rejected wholeheartedly a similar proposal to this, and the state of Delaware has repealed a statute that would allow dispensers to provide cerumen management. It's not safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Hello, my name is Terry Hall, Terrihall. Thank you for hearing me in my opposition to AB 177. I am a little bit confused after listening as to the whole being grandfathered in, but I am going to proceed with my statement because my understanding was that we would not be grandfathered in. So I just want to say that this is my 22nd year as a speech language pathologist in CCSD. I entered the initial cohort program that went through UNLV 24 years ago before Nevada State even came to be. We were grown to be SLPs for the school district because of the severe shortage. And when I found out about this, I was ecstatic. I just felt that it was a calling of mine, and I have loved doing my job for 22 years. I would have gone to graduate school, and I did enroll at Nevada State College in 2009. But right before the program was to start, it was cut because of budget. When it was finally offered again 10 years later, I was not in a position to enroll. I was taking care of my dying mother and working full time, and going back to school for a master's at that time was not in my best interest. I am now down to my final 8 to 10 years working in a school district, and I am single, and I've worked very hard to get to where I am. And if I am demoted to being in a support staff position after being a speech language pathologist for 22 years, I will not take that cut. I will find something else to do. It is insulting to say that we are not trained to do this job after doing it for over 2 decades. School is important, degrees are important, but experience is important too. And so, in short, I do support AB 177 with the amendment that SLPs who are not nationally certified be grandfathered into their current positions as long as they maintain their license for the Nevada Department of
Ma'am,
Education.
if you can please wrap up your testimony.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 177? I have a feeling we may have a couple questions for you.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Brad Keating for the record, representing the Clark County School District. I am here in neutral as it relates to AB 177. And the reason I'm here in neutral is because the Clark County School District, either way we move forward on this bill, we believe either educators should fully be in this bill or we should fully be out of this bill. I think there needs to be a clarification on that, and we are good either way it stands. I want to say on the record that the sponsor bringing this bill forward has talked to me more than she's probably ever wanted to talk to me over the last day, and I appreciate her walking me through the bill. I appreciate the stakeholders right behind me talking through this bill and explaining to us where it was at and where we're moving forward. I think the confusion, as you've heard from a number of individuals, is there's a confusion between this bill and then a regulation by the Nevada Department of Education. Unfortunately, the Department of Education is not here today. I think a conversation with them included will clarify this for many of the educators across the state, especially those in Southern Nevada, because I know fully that it is not the intention of the sponsor or the stakeholders behind me or the district to affect or hurt any of our employees in any way, shape, or form, because the work they're doing is incredibly important for our students. So we will continue to refine that and figure out what the bill should look like to make it a success for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you speak at all about the reclassification?
Brad Keating for the record. So the numbers were given, and that was the question before. So currently, the Clark County School District has 411 SLPs who provide IEP-driven speech language services for over 19,000 students. 204 out of the 411 don't meet the requirements that would be set forth in this bill for speech language therapists moving forward. So I think there's been confusion. We've talked about them being grandfathered in. That's not in this bill. That's in a separate regulation somewhere that could change at any given moment. So we are nervous with this bill moving forward that those 204 members can be affected in some capacity.
Thank you for that answer. So they could be reclassified to support staff, and their pay could also be affected. Is that correct? Even if, even if they've been in their current position for 20 plus years.
Brad Keating for the record, yes, that's correct. It would all be determined on what position they were previously, but they would be looked at, and the position that we've talked about, the SLP assistant position, would be classified as a support professional assistant, which would be a large hit to their salary.
Assemblymember Torres Fawcett.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for addressing some of those concerns. I guess if I could get clarity, but then wouldn't it be up to the district to determine whether or not that pay was impacted too? So while we might hear a legislate like some type of license, wouldn't it be up to the district to determine the role that those individuals would, like where they would be classified? Because that's not done here at the legislature.
Chair, through you to the Assembly Member Brad Keating for the record. You are correct. Those issues are collectively bargained. We will work with our bargaining units on that, but the assistant category would fall under a support professional category in the district, in at least the Clark County School District. I don't want to speak for any other district currently.
Any additional questions? Assembly Member Miller.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, in realizing that you can't, Mr. Keating, Dr. Keating, thank you. My question is, in realizing you can't speak for the state, but often that falls on Clark County School District because you are the largest in the state, a vast majority of the state. And so my question is, between the regulation and the proposed bill, and again, grandfathering to me has always meant that these individuals will not be impacted or expected. And so I just, out of curiosity, and I'm going to take this question in a different direction, how have the current practitioners in the school district been performing? Like based on evaluations, based on performance, based on student need and parental satisfaction? Is there a need? Are we saying that this current workforce is not performing at the level that they need to be? Or if you could just share with us how the current practitioners are performing.
Brad Keating for the record. Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Miller. I don't have data today to walk you through what their evaluations look like, but I can assure you that students are more successful today because these individuals are in the positions that they're in. They're providing essential services for our students with disabilities who need the services, who need to be tested through child find opportunities, who need the speech audio, the assistance throughout school. We see it every single day in our classrooms, especially with I don't like talking about the COVID pandemic, but we saw the COVID pandemic over the years and the loss of instruction in phonics. Students have such a difficulty stating words due to what they went through in COVID. So these individuals are providing incredible services to these kids. And the only reason that we've started discussing this bill is because we don't want any student hurt, period. And we know there are 19,000 students with disabilities that are receiving these services today. And we heard testimony on the phone of somebody who said that if they were to be reclassified, we would lose them. We know there's a shortage. We can't affect any more students. We can't have any more students not receiving the services they do.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for being here for questions at the last minute. I appreciate it. And I think that's my fear, and probably most of my colleagues, is we're already shorthanded. So that's one. What are we going to do with 204 individuals if they are no longer in the school district helping the kids? And on top of that, being reclassified and not earning the same affects your family, right? Affects your well-being, and so that's my concern. Thank you again for being here. And with that, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Marzola and members of this committee. My name is Catherine Nielsen. For the record, I am representing 3 different groups. Obviously, myself, I'm hard of hearing, but I'm also the executive director for the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities and the vice chair of the Nevada Commission for Persons Who Are Deaf, Hard of Hearing, and Speech Impaired. So we're offering our testimony today in neutral. We are this close to being in support, but we also offer those same concerns of those that would be eliminated should this go through. But we're excited to see any bill coming forward to increase quality of care for the deaf and hard of hearing community, as they're often put a little lower of a standard. So we're excited to see this and hopeful to get to that level of support for this as well. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star now to join the queue. Chair, the public lines are open and working, but we don't have any callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. Assemblymember Gonzalez, would you like to give any final remarks? No?
Thank you so much, Cecilia Gonzalez, Assembly District 16. For the record, I appreciate everyone's comments today and concerns. Again, I think the intent is definitely not to displace these employees, and we were working diligently for a solution moving forward. Thank you for the committee for hearing us today, and I will see you all soon.
Thank you for your presentation and being with us in Commerce today. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 177. I will now open up for public comment. Please address remarks to issues that fall within the jurisdiction of this committee. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. Public comment may be submitted in writing to the committee up to 24 hours after our hearing. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. Is there anyone wishing to give public comment here in Carson City? I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to join the queue. Chair, we don't have any callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. Committee members, are there any comments before I adjourn? I don't see any. This concludes our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, February 26th at 1:30 p.m. This meeting's adjourned.